As far as like what... Hi, honey.
I want popcorn.
We don't have any popcorn.
I want popcorn.
But we don't have popcorn.
I want popcorn.
Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to, I guess, part 2 of my Q&A. That first question was kind of a doozy and took me like 25 minutes to sit down and, you know, get everything out. So it deserved its own video because it was so long. So I'm gonna just continue on with the questions that I have. Most of these questions are coming from actual subscribers or friends, because I asked my friends, hey, you wanna ask me some questions in my Q&A? And a couple of them gave me some questions. But there are a couple things that I'm also going to just address. Just things that I see a lot of times in the comments that I feel like I end up repeating myself quite often to respond. So instead of me having to type all that out every single time someone asks me this question or make some kind of comment that needs, you know, a lengthy response, I can just send them to this video with a timestamp. Makes it easier for me. First question from this video actually comes from my friend Justin. He has a channel called The Mashup. If you're interested in gaming, techie stuff, movies, reviews, all that stuff, his channel is pretty cool. I'd suggest you go check him out. Again, he's at The Mashup. I'll have a link up here for you to go check his channel out, as well as down in the description. But his question is, what is your most favorite reaction video you've done so far on your channel? It's really hard for me to pick like one artist, but I think my favorite ones to do are when I'm hearing a new artist for the first time. Here recently, my favorite one I think has been Ricky Vallon. His first impression on me was just like, whoa. And I think it's also because I had an interesting backstory and tie to the song that it also made it extra special, but he was just so fun to watch. And I don't think I've had another artist that is that much of a showman. But I think Ricky Vallon's cover of Don't Cry For Me Argentina, that's the one that's popping into my head right now. That's like, I think that's my favorite reaction that I've done so far is that one. Or when I first heard Gabriel Henrique whistle, which was Run To You by Whitney Houston. What? One of those two. Those are the ones that are sticking out right now. I think those are my two favorites. As of now. My favorite will probably change in a couple weeks. Those are my favorites right now. My favorite types of videos to film are when I hear a new artist for the first time. This next question comes from Lauren. They asked, do you believe that today's singers are more technically evolved than those who were and are still on planet Earth? Maybe. I'm guessing you're asking if I believe that singers like now compared to like, I don't know, like the 50s are more vocally evolved. Singers in the 50s typically, like in the 50s and 60s, that's when like rock and roll was first starting to become like a big thing. Okay, late 40s, early 50s is more like when rock and roll started. It's so hard to say because I'm sure that the technical things were still there, and I'm sure that there were still people who were doing like experimental things with their voice. I don't know if evolved is the right word. I think singers now have more vocal agility than maybe singers did 50, 60 years ago. So like if you're listening to music from like way back then, most of them just sort of just sing the song. They don't do a whole lot of vocal thingies. There's not a whole lot of runs. There's definitely really not any whistles. I mean, unless you're listening to Minnie Riperton. Like before rock and roll really took off, you know, Sister Rosetta Tharpe with her guitar riffs and her wails and stuff. She laid the groundwork, guys. She was awesome. I actually reacted to her a long time ago. Here's a reaction up here. Also, you can go check out Bailey Sarian's Dark History, where she talks about Sister Rosetta Tharpe in detail. It's actually the only Dark History that I was like, oh, I know who she is. I just think that singers now are able to do a lot more with their voice because the music style has changed so much and there's so many different styles. There's more genres really now than there were, 50, 60 years ago. And I think the more that singers get experimental with either their voice or music in general, then then it's just gonna keep changing. And I guess vocally, yeah, they're gonna evolve a little bit, because then then singers are gonna try to do different things with their voice. They're gonna try and make different sounds and just experiment. So I mean, if you want to compare music from today to like 60 years ago, then yeah, there's a big difference in vocals. Vocally, I find, see, I'm an old soul. I like all the music from back then. I love me some Perry Como. I love me some Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. And, you know, I like all that old music. And so I don't want to say one is better than the other. It's just there's singers now just do a lot more with their voice in comparison. Maybe it was always there for the other singers, they just didn't do it. But they definitely do a lot more vocally now. I think that's how I'm gonna answer that question. That was really long. This one is two questions from Leo Santos. He asks me, are you North American? Yes, I am North American. To be more precise, I am American, and to be super precise, I am Texan. Pew, pew, pew. And the second question is, do you know other countries? Brazil. And then he says, Brazil is one of the richest countries in musical diversity in the world. There are styles for everyone, but many reactors confuse our music with Latin American music. We have big world names, and then he lists some artists that I still have not heard of. Yeah, I can see why people would confuse Brazil with like Latin America, because most people think in Brazil that y'all speak Spanish. I even knew going into reacting to Gabriel, Henrique, I was like, they don't speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese. But because it's in South America is sort of considered like, I guess the way they taught it in school for us is most people in that South Americans, all the South American countries speak Spanish. And then I also remember when I was taking Spanish that we learned all the countries and capitals for Central America and South America. And so even like when I was in junior high, I thought in Brazil that y'all spoke Spanish. And then I took a world geography class in high school, and you know, we went over like the different countries and the official language, the flag and things like that. And I was like, oh, they speak Portuguese. That's cool. I didn't know what Portuguese sounded like. I just knew Portuguese was also spoken in Portugal. And I'm like, why do they speak Portuguese? That's what they speak in Portugal, which is across the ocean. I looked up the answers to my questions because I'm a very curious individual, and I like history, and I like geography is one of my favorite subjects. I actually took it as my elective class in college. And so, yeah, we learned about Brazil and everything then too. But I don't really know what you mean by do you know other countries. If you're asking if I've been to other countries, the only countries I've been to besides America is Canada and Mexico. I would love to go to Brazil. I would love to go to the Philippines. And of course, I would love to go to Norway, where, you know, my mom's family is from. And I would also love to go to Italy, where my dad's family is from. This next question is from Color Silk Screen. They asked me, have you tried a music career? Super long answer, but if you want to know the answer to that question, it was in the video I did previously. It's up here. And then they go on to say, I really like your reactions because they are technical. Oh, I try. I try to remember all the technical words. Again, this question pops up again from Lerma. They asked, do you also sing, or do you have a background in the music industry? The answer to your first question is yes, I do sing. I've talked about it before. I had a 4-octave range when I went to audition for Tarleton State. I'll try to find the video where I talk about that, and I'll put it up here along with the timestamp. My background in the music industry is pretty non-existent, but if you want to hear all that, I'll put a card up here or down in the description. Either way, it's up here. This next question is from Star Viva Production, and they ask, why is your name similar to Whitney Houston? Well, I was born in the 80s. Actually, I talked about this too in some other videos, but they actually thought I was a boy. Yeah, the sonogram looked like I had something, and so my name was Christopher for 6 weeks, and then I came out and I was a girl. And the name they chose for me if I was going to be a girl was going to be Brittany. But luckily for me, I was 2 weeks late, and in those few months leading up to when I was actually born, there was like 1 billion Brittany's in the surrounding counties born. And a lot of people my mom knew were naming their daughters Brittany, or knew someone who named their daughter Brittany, and they're like, well, Brittany's out. So they went with Whitney. And when I asked my dad, like, where'd you get Whitney from? And he said, well, Whitney Houston was popular. So, I mean, I wasn't named after her per se, but I mean, if I thought about this a couple of years ago, like, if 80s pop stars was the criteria for picking out my name could have been Janet, you know, for Janet Jackson. It could have been Tiffany. It could have been Madonna. It's not gonna be Madonna. It could have been Paula. It could have been Taylor, like Taylor Dane. It could have been so many other names. But I like my name Whitney. That's basically, I guess, why it sounds like Whitney Houston, because she was popular at the time. I was born in the 80s and they needed a name real fast. And then my friend Elise asked me a question on Instagram. She said, is there a region or ethnicity of music you specifically enjoy more than others? I personally love Native American music, and I guess you could call it Tibetan. I don't know if there's a region that I like more or less. I love me some Italian love songs though. Like Luigi Tenco is one of my favorites, even though he does sing about like heartache and despair, and it's all very sad. His death is super suspicious to me, but that's another video for another day. But yeah, I really love Italian music. It helps me learn the language, which I've been trying to learn for years. But as far as like the music that I react to, I don't really like an area more than another. I love all the singers from Brazil that I've reacted to, and I've also loved all the musicians from the Philippines that I've reacted to. Their music styles are very different, but I don't think I could pick one over the other. But music in general, I would have to say I love me some Italian music. I think I need to start reacting to some Italian artists on this channel. That's just, why have I not done that yet? But I think I'm gonna end this video here. I'm gonna address some other comments and things that I get in another video. So thank you for your questions. I will always take questions from you guys and maybe do another Q&A in the future, but that's been it for this video. So if you like these videos where I, you know, talk a lot, but mostly do reactions, then hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified when I have new videos coming out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!